Look, he covers anything and everything that has to do with the Baltimore Ravens. And he's set to go.
He is. He's here.
I mean, he's always looking good. And you can tell this guy's a big league operator. I mean, look at that. Look at him. Here, take a look. Look at that background. No. I mean, come on, man. I mean, ever since we had you on, you were looking good back then, but now you've like blown up. I read about you all the time.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on again. Thank you for that. This is it's a big weekend. Big weekend. Been a crazy season with the Bengals. I know with the Bengals, they started off slow and then they just got hot, caught fire. And with the Ravens, they started off hot, then they went slow, then they went hot and slow, and it was inconsistent. Then Lamar went out, and it's just been crazy. So it's going to be fun that these teams are facing each other for the third time. So a lot of familiarity, a lot of it's going to be a lot of familiar faces, a lot of familiar plays, familiar coaching staff. I mean, they're in the AFC North. They're already familiar with each other, but now to face off for a third time, yeah, that's big.
Well, I mean, what's the feeling in and around the Ravens fan base? You know, last week, I don't think you can put a lot of stock in that game in one way or the other. I don't care who you root for. I think both teams were, had some guys out, especially the Ravens. There's a lot of poking and prodding going on and not showing a lot. But for Ravens fans, it looks like Huntley's going to be in there. We'll start there. So let's start before I ask you about the overall feeling of the team. It looks like Huntley is going to start at quarterback, right?
Yeah, it's looking like Huntley. He didn't play last week because he had soreness in his throwing shoulder. So we'll see if he's still affected by that. I know he did practice for the first time yesterday. So we'll see how that goes. But whether it's him or Anthony Brown, obviously neither one of the two is Lamar Jackson. They both do have their strengths. They both, of course, do have their weaknesses as well. So we'll see how it plays out. I think with either one of those two starting, Ravens should really rely on the running game a lot. Last week, J.K. Dobbins, he was out, but this week he should be back. And he wasn't out because of injury last week. He was just out because they held him out. They held out him, Mark Andrews, and right guard Kevin Zeitler, a former Cincinnati Bengal too. Yep. But they held him out they held all three of them out from the game last week. But if it's Tyler Huntley, then the running game's got to be big. And Tyler Huntley, he's been pretty good at completing a lot of short passes. His issue has been pushing the ball downfield, getting those chunk plays. With Anthony Brown, I think his biggest issue, he'll push the ball downfield, but sometimes he can just be really off sometimes. But once he gets into the rhythm, it's a lot better. And sometimes he can lack a bit of awareness in the pocket. And, I mean, he's an undrafted rookie free agent. This is literally his first year in the league. So stuff like that is going to happen. If I had to choose, I would rather Anthony Brown be there because I just feel like the Ravens have a little bit more potential with him, especially for moving the ball down the field. But we'll see what decision the Ravens end up making. But the running game is going to have to be really, really big if they want to have a chance in this game. So
I started to ask the question, what's the overall vibe of the franchise? I mean, the Ravens
I got carried away, yeah.
No. I was going to follow up with that. You were spot on. Look, I've done a lot of games in Baltimore. It's an incredible fan base. It's one of the best places in a league to go to a game. I just have so much respect for the organization. But do they feel like they have a chance in this game?
I know a lot of people don't, but a lot of people do. Obviously, with Lamar Jackson out, that can put a damp on a lot of people's hopes, and it can be rough. It's rough, but I think most Ravens fans are going into this thing obviously hoping for the best. We're not necessarily expecting to win, but crazier things have happened. So Ravens definitely have the defense to get it done, but a lot of this is going to be resting on the offense's shoulders. I know you talked about the game last week and not putting too much stock into it, but something that we took away from that game last week, the Ravens lost by 11 points to the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. Now, this game, of course, the atmosphere is going to be just a million times crazier because that game last week, it had playoff implications, kind of, but there was a lot that depended on if the Ravens won and the whole coin toss thing, but it didn't even get to that point. But what we saw in that game last week was that the defense, I think they held the Bengals to 3 points in the second half, so they really made a lot of good adjustments. But in the first half, the Ravens just kept turning the ball over and over and over and just literally giving the Bengals easy points. So a lot of us feel like if the Ravens can eliminate that, like really get rid of the turnovers, and I know it's hard within two undrafted free agent quarterbacks, one being a rookie and one being in his third year, Tyler Huntley, whoever ends up starting. If they can cut down on the turnovers, then they can really give themselves a legitimate shot to win this game, especially based off of what the defense can do.
We have been talking not even probably a tenth as much as you have been talking about this whole Lamar Jackson thing. And we've been saying on this show all along that I never will, we never will on this program question an injury to another human being. We just don't know. Clearly, he came out on social media yesterday, said the knee is still swollen, it's still sore, he cannot get out there and play. God bless him, we hope he gets better, okay? But as to the way this whole thing plays out, there's no way the Ravens can give this guy a long-term deal, right? This offseason, they got to tag him.
I don't see them coming to a long-term deal this offseason, but just really even before the injury. I just feel like the two sides are just they seem like they're just on two different wavelengths when it comes to the long-term deal. My personal opinion, I feel like Lamar Jackson has earned it already, but with the Ravens being really hesitant to give him the money that he wants, I don't see that changing after this season, especially when he ended it being hurt. So the way I think that it's going to go, whether it's a franchise tag, and then it could get really ugly from there, because I don't think he's going to want to sign a franchise tag, especially after everything that he's been through with this team. But I think it's either going to be a tag and it could get ugly, or a tag and trade. I mean, either way, it could get ugly with the franchise tag. But I don't see it being a nice resolution as far as him signing a long-term deal with the Ravens this offseason, because as far as negotiations, what is going to help them and hurt him is the fact that he is hurt. And Ravens can point to this season and last season and be like, hey, look how you ended the past two seasons. Why should we give you all of this money? And Lamar, I mean, he could fight them back and be like, hey, well, you know what I do when I'm on the field, and then look at the offensive line that you put in front of me. Those are the reasons why I've been hurt these past two seasons. So I just feel like it's going to be a lot of back and forth. I don't see it being a positive resolution, though. I think it's just going to end with the franchise tag, and then from there, we'll see what happens after that.
You know, this game, before we let you go, this game is the first time I can remember in a long time where there are players on both teams, and it's not surprising. They play in the same division, like you said, the familiarity. But there were a lot of Bengals players, they didn't name any names, that felt like there was some dirty play last week. Now, all of a sudden, you got Joe Mixon coming out saying some things. You got Chase saying some things. You got Roquan Smith saying some things. There's a lot going on here besides just a football game. I think inside of this football game, you tell me if you agree, this thing has a chance to get pretty nasty between these two teams. You hope and pray nobody gets hurt and there's nothing dirty.
Right.
But I think there is an edge to this game that there's not in any other game that's going to be played in the playoffs this weekend. You agree?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It just reminds me of the old AFC North type of games that we would get between Ravens and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, Bengals and Ravens. It seems like they're getting back to that sort of old school AFC North football. And you can't get all the way back there because the rules of the NFL prevent you from really taking it there. But this weekend is probably going to get as close as it possibly can. There's obviously now even more bad blood. I think it really started over the years before Joe Burrow even got there. And even one time when he was there, had the Ravens they were really beat up on the Bengals. The Bengals, they wouldn't have the best teams put out there, and the Ravens would take advantage of that. I mean, you have to. That's what's in front of your schedule. But then last year, when the Bengals, they ended up returning the favor, and they ended up beating up on the Ravens. One time, Lamar Jackson did play, and then the second game, he was out, and that's where Burrow threw for over 500 yards, and the Bengals, they just kept throwing that ball, kept putting up points. So I think that really stuck with the Ravens a lot. And then in this game, it's like, all right, well, they got a little chippy in week 18. A lot of big-time hits. I didn't really think any of them were dirty. They were big hits, though. I mean, the one to T. Higgins, There was another one with Chuck Clark. I think he hit Tyler Boyd. I forgot who it was, but there was some big hits in that game. And there was just a lot of physicality, and that's something that's been missing, in my opinion, from the AFC North for a little while. But like I said, with the rules, they change how the game is played. But it seems like Ravens and Bengals, they're going to be bringing it back this weekend. So there could be some ugliness. There could be some extra penalties. And I know with the Bengals bringing it to the NFL's attention and them continuing to speak about it publicly, the officials, they're going to be watching extra hard. So it's going to make it that much more of an interesting game. It's going to be a lot of tempers flaring, especially because with this game, it's like you can't win this game. You can't lose this game and then look back like, oh, okay, well, next week we can do this. Next week, no, if you lose this game, that's it. That's a wrap. You're done. So that's going to make this game that much more intense for both teams.
Are you in the prediction business, Engraven? What do you think?
Man, not really.
Come on, man. Come on. I mean, come on.
You know what? All right, let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So, we know how the game in Week 5 went. Ravens got that one last-second field goal. And then we know, of course, how the game in Week 18 went. Bengals got that one. It did not take a last-second field goal, however. But third matchup, I think Bengals are really, really flying high right now. Really feeling super confident. Going to have all the fans in the stadium. It's going to be Sunday Night Football, so it's going to be that atmosphere. I know it's going to be going crazy. I remember watching the Monday Night Football, the beginning of the game, and them just showing Paycor Stadium, and it was just the energy was wild, and I think that same energy is going to be there. So I'm going to say in this game, Bengals 19, Ravens 21. Last-second field goal gets it.
Oh, my Lord. He drops a 19 and then a 21 on us on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I think it's going to be one of them stressful games. Because the Bengals, they got plenty of film to look at. Ravens got plenty of film to look at. But the physicality, man, the physicality is going to make the biggest difference in this game. So that's what I'm going with, 21-19.
All right. You know what? I like your style, and I appreciate you coming on and joining us. I mean, the internet's going to blow up. When you came on here last time, I mean, we didn't give you any pub. You gave us all the pub. So we say thank you, and we look forward to having you back. We'll see what happens on Sunday night. I know you'll be dialed in.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I appreciate you all. Thank you.